Hello, and welcome to Mockito in Intellij, a tutorial for creating a mock for use in unit testing. A mock serves the same function as a stub in unit testing, meaning that it substitutes for a called class or method, allowing the developer or regression tester to test one component using another component that has not yet been developed. My name is Frank Ware, and I'm a graduate student at Kennesaw State University in software engineering. This presentation is part of SWE 6673 Testing and Verification. So let's take something really practical as an example. The zombie apocalypse has happened, and Google has created an API for finding out if your neighbors have met their demise. If you tell them where you live and self-identify as living or not dead yet, you can access their API to check on the state of your neighbor's health. When you get a list of neighbors from Google, the ones that have suffered a zombie attack have ZOM tacked to the front of their names. For reference, this tutorial was created on Intellij with these packages and extensions. Let's start by setting up a new project in Intellij. This way we all start in the same place. Click File, New, Project, and New Project. Name the project Zombies. It should be a Java project, and you're going to use Maven. And I'm using JDK 11.0.18. Setting this up should create a directory structure something like this, but if not, add the packages, folders, as necessary. The application consists of two files: an interface that defines a connector to Google's Zombie API called Google Zombie Connector, and a list of zombies called Zombie List. First, we need to add the interface. In the example folder within the source/Java, add a Java interface for the Google Connector to define how we will receive a list of organisms from Google's Zombie Locator API. Right-click on org.example, go to New, Java Class. Now add the name Google Zombie Connector and make the class type an interface. When that comes up in the coding screen, we need to add a method into the interface. So we would add public. The return will be a list of strings. The method name is findBodies, and we're going to be sending it a string called region. Next, we need to add a class for the zombie list. So right-click on org.example again and do New, and then Java class. This time call it Zombie List, and the class type will be class rather than interface. Because the Zombie List class needs a connector to the Google Zombie API, we should include it as an attribute of the Zombie List class. Then we add the constructor for the Zombie List class, and let's assume that we will send the Google Zombie connector as an argument to the constructor. This way, we move the instantiation of the connector outside of the Zombie List class. This is important here because the test will create a mock of the connector, and we want to complete our development and test it. If we were to reference the mock within the class, we would have to modify the code after testing, which is self-defeating. Now we need to create the method to filter out the zombies from the list retrieved from Google. We call it filter organisms and return the filtered list. We create the filtered and unfiltered lists and pull down the unfiltered list from the Google connector. Then we cycle through the unfiltered list called bioorganisms and add any zombies to the filtered list. As simple as it is, this satisfies the functional requirement for our zombie list class. Now that we have our application complete, we need to test zombie list to make sure it works before we go on to developing the Google connector. But before we move on to testing, let's do a little package management. Within the code, there are some words noted as having problems by the fact that they are red. This is because they are from Java libraries that are not yet included in the project. The easiest solution is to mouse over them and wait for the solution to show up. In this case, list is from a library called Java Util, and we need to import it into the class. Just click Import Class, and Intellij will take care of it for you. Do the same with list and array list in the other class. With the obvious problems resolved, the program we want to test is zombie list and its method filter organisms. And unit testing requires a test library, JUnit. This brings up a couple of potential problems in our setup that you may not have handled yet. So let's head them off before they get too far down the road. In the coding window, if you right-click on the class name zombie list and generate, you will have an option to generate a test. First, it may not create the test where you want it. Recall that we made a test folder early on. The test should go into that folder, and it should be in the same location in the folder hierarchy as the class we're testing. Intellij has some settings to control where code and test files go. In the Project Explorer, right-click the Zombies project and open Module Settings, then Modules. From there, you can see the package structure for the project. Notice that some folders are marked blue and green. If you look at the menu across the top, you will see that blue is the source's root and green is the test root. Now that you know what this means, you might notice them in the Project Explorer as well. They should be marked as the Java folder under Main and the Java folder under Test, respectively. By setting it up this way, the system will place the test in the correct folder. Now that we are creating the test in the correct folder, let's take a deeper look at the test creation procedure. If you haven't already addressed the issue, the project may not include JUnit in its libraries. Just like java.util, JUnit is considered a basic package in Intellij, and the system will recognize that it is not yet included in the libraries. But the issue shows up first in the dialog rather than in the coding interface. When you generate the test, a dialog comes up and you are given the option to fix the problem. Select JUnit 4 and click Fix. Now set the class name to Zombie List Test. Select Filter Organisms method at the bottom and create the test for it. Click OK. So now we have the test file and the basic structure. The first thing we want to do is to create an instance of the Google connector, since we need it to create a list of biological organisms that we can search for zombies. But the connector is a Java interface rather than a class, so we don't have a class to instantiate. Because we are not interested in writing the whole connector just to test the zombie list, we create a mock-up of it, sort of a virtual class, a mock. This way we can pretend it exists without getting into any coding. A mock can include the method, accept arguments, and it can be called. So when we mock Google Zombie Connector, it has the findBodies method, and we can send it the region. When the method is called, we want to return a list of biological organisms. So we tell it to do that, but the list doesn't exist. That's easy to resolve. Create the list, and now we are ready to go. We use the quote when unquote statement from Mockito library, pass it the region, and then tell it what to return, and we're all set. The mock now knows how to pretend to be an actual class and method. Just one little thing. We can easily add the import for the list and the array from the Java util by right-clicking the red class names like we did before. But Mockito methods mock and when are not in any current libraries. They require a little special attention. Let's start by trying to import them directly. But this still doesn't work. Package management is a core skill of a programmer and software architect. But for now, we're just trying to survive the zombies. Again, we must add the library, but this time it's a little more involved. The problem is that Mockito is not included in the dependencies and is not considered in the Maven standard packages for the Java included with Intellij. For this reason, Intellij may not know how to include them automatically. By adding Mockito to the pom.xml file, you are telling Maven, your package manager, that it needs to download Mockito for this project to run. Right-click and open the pom.xml file, and in the dependencies section, add a dependency for Mockito. JUnit should already be there, but if not, add it. Now that you have the dependencies defined, you need to tell Maven to download them. This would happen automatically if you reload the project, but let's do it through the Maven interface. Open the Maven window and click the refresh icon in the top left. Mockito should now show in the libraries, and you can import them just like you did for JUnit. Once they are imported, the mock, when, and then return methods should stop flagging the error. That was a lot of work. I promise the next few steps will be easier. So we created a mock. Now we need to use it to test zombie list. Instantiate it as neighbors and then use it to create a list of zombies called not dead yet.